In my poster session, I've decided to use Prezi to discuss kind of what I think I take from this course. We did cover so much territory, but these are the few things that I think really stood out to me and hit home in developing my philosophy and management and assessment in online learning. I was originally going to use VoiceThread, but after learning kind of what the outcome needed to be, I felt that that application, that tool, did not effectively meet that outcome. And I feel like that's one of the things I learned with all of these applications is to not try to fit a square peg into a round hole and making things work, but to try to find applications that do meet your desired outcome. So for that, I picked this Prezi. I went with the roots of creation, online learning in PE, with this tree because it's it symbolizes a strong foundation in the roots, the environment, the nurturing to be able to eventually bear fruit or bear learners that can go out and make choices and be productive members of society, hopefully with kind of what they learned in my online class. Right? So, roots of creation. First part of it would be my philosophy. I think that this needs to be a viable alternative to a brick and mortar. In phys ed, specifically, we have athletes that cannot make it to everyday phys ed or everyday all day school because of elite competitions or programs such as figure skaters. We have figure skaters that aren't in school for half day because they're training, and we have gymnastics is another big one, men and or boys and girls. So they miss half days and they need a viable option to be able to get their PE credit. Another one would be injuries or disabilities that students would need another modified option to be able to get their PE credit. And I think that the online courses that we create need to be able to fulfill that need. Um, I would be a facilitator of learning. That's something that kind of I will be taking forward, um, and that kind of would be a facilitator that promotes uh, the five outcomes of learner autonomy, active participation, collaboration, community building, authentic assessments, and acquisition of 21st century skills, which in our district we'll actually have a technology in service coming up here on the 17th. We're going to be talking about the four C's. Um, and that is critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. So I think my role is to facilitate and create those uh, outcomes, create and promote those types of outcomes for the student. I also believe it should be very student centered, um, which is dealing with activities that are self directed, authentic, uh, and incorporate structured decision making processes. And within phys ed and health, that's a big part of it is making good decisions. And as a facilitator, like I said, I should be providing just the structure and guidance that allows the learners to create and participate in a network of learning, as stated in Chapter 2. Differentiation, there's some students through a variety of technological skills or knowledge that they should be able to work kind of at their own pace and be given different options to meet the same outcomes, whether it's they rather write a paper or they rather do a voiceover or they rather do a slideshow or they rather do a voice thread. But they all have the same parameters, but they can meet that in really any way that they want to. I always use the analogy as we want to get from point A to point B, and it doesn't matter how we get there. We can take a bus, we can drive a car, we can walk. Uh, there's many ways to get from point A to point B, but the goal is to get to your destination, and that is just through differentiation. Collaboration, having students work together with each other, with the community, going out and making networking and making contacts with people in the fitness profession, and options out there in the community that are available to them. That collaboration is a big part of it because it's not a face-to-face class. I don't want them to feel like they're out there on an island. Connection to community, again, sending them out into the community and looking at all the viable options that are out there for fitness through the parks and recreations or the fitness clubs, and get them to really start to look and dive into some of that stuff. And like I said, the acquisition of 21st century skills, which is a big push, and I think that really needs to be a primary part of my philosophy because technology is not going anywhere, and jobs, employers are looking for those skills, and I would like to make that a big part. Next, my course, be an online PE course. Right now we're using Moodle as our learning management system. I think we're going to Schoology. It would be a blended format, asynchronous course. I have 8 bi-weekly assessments using various Web 2.0 tools and collaboration tools. Monthly face-to-face fitness tests. So that's kind of where the blended comes in. 90% of it would be done online through the Moodle asynchronous format, but we do need to make sure that they're hitting their benchmarks with their fitness level. So they would be testing monthly face-to-face for those fitness tests. And then a comprehensive final project. So that's kind of like the outline of my course. I'll go over some of more of the asynchronous aspects of it and some of the assessments, but that's the basic outline. The assessments would include screencast discussion boards, Prezzies, like I'm doing here, VoiceThreads, Canva, and Poplet, just to name a few. These would be all asynchronous. There would be options because they are all in school in the study hall to have small group breakout groups for synchronous learning, whether it's through chat, whether it's through Google Hangouts, and those things. I would be available in my office to be able to guide kids through there. They'd be able to contact me and we could have that synchronous face-to-face time. But most of it would be through asynchronous. For example, going out and interviewing various fitness professionals and creating a voice thread with their findings, or looking at different recreational programs at local universities like Millersville, F&M, and going out to there, or just looking at their programs through their departments online through all the other PSAC schools, and allowing them to see what options are out there when they move on out of my phys ed class to be lifelong fitness participants, and how that would relate to reducing stress and mental health in college. Another one would be to also look at different parks and recs for the township, not necessarily for colleges, but for townships. Lidditz Rec, Ephrata Rec, Manheim Township Rec, Lancaster Rec, and look at what programs they offer and see if they offer co-ed, individual sports, co-ed sports, team sports, and things like that. So getting all of these information, to name some, and putting them into these types of Web 2.0 tools. The discussion boards, huge part of collaboration and getting the kids, to dialogue with each other, even though they're not face to face. Management is a big one. How am I going to manage all this stuff? Well, I think time is a big concern. We teach the max amount of time allowed by contract, so that gives us a lack of time to start to grade all of these assessments and look at them and collaborate with these students and meet face to face. Another one is non-participation is a big one, especially in high school. How do we get to keep those kids to participate, and reaching out to them and making sure that it is not only it's not the course, and maybe something's going on with them, maybe there's a tech issue. We need to figure that out as well. Also think that you need to reach out and set time for students that maybe aren't participating to come after school, maybe to gain internet access, and they must know that the expectations of being held accountable for the lack of they are being held accountable for the lack of participation. Generic replies, again, you need to be able to give them a sample discussion, examples of exemplary responses, so that they know that generic replies will not be tolerated. Reading and writing skills, if they are poor, I think it's important that you use multiple forms of discussion, like video recording, speech to text, and possibly use maybe another adult to be the buffer or the cleaner upper of what they're saying, so that they can articulate what you want them to say. Another one, bullying behaviors, they have to be squashed right away. Use random grouping, and then inappropriate comments or language obviously can't be tolerated. I think that's why it's important to be involved in the checking in the discussions and managing the course, so that you do have a social presence in there. And then kind of goes up to once you do all these and nurture and manage and set practical guidelines, like engaging prompts and monitoring discussions, summarizing responses, redirecting if they get off track, clarifying misconceptions. If a student is in there and just goes off and says something that's not accurate, I think you need to go in there and clarify misconceptions, modeling appropriate responses, and posting early constructive criticism in a respectful way using proper grammar and spelling. And then have learners provide resources to support their point of view. You can't just let them go in there and say, this is what I think. Well, back it up. Right? So once you nurture, set your guidelines, you manage your discussions, you're going to start to bear these fruits, that differentiated learning is going to increase motivation. The accessibility is something that really came to light. The different types of students, from those with disabilities to elite athletes, and then the overall online management that I went over. But those are the 4 things that I kind of really took away from this course, and intrigued me. And then questions at this point, that my fruit that's not yet ripe, they would be things like, what happens if students don't know the technology? How do you train them? The time to do that. What happens if in the middle of a module links go down and you're kind of creating content on the fly and reeling a little bit? So I'm sorry that I had to kind of speed up there at the end a little bit, but I'm up against my 15-minute limit. But I want to thank you for watching this, and feel free to post your responses.